Hi there, welcome back to Creative with Crafted Life. My name is Melanie, and today we're going to talk about some other containers that I think work pretty well in craft spaces. I've actually have one set of these already, and I just bought another set to share with you some of the different supplies that you can use these containers for. So this is the Puroma 24-piece desk, kitchen, bathroom. Basically they're drawer organizers, and they are acrylic. If you watched a recent video of mine where I showed you how I redid my embossing powder drawer, I was using these containers in there in conjunction with some small 1 ounce and 1/2 ounce containers, and they worked perfect. So let's pull these out and I will show you what you all get in this particular bundle. And the link for this will be in the description below. I just purchased it off of Amazon, and I will include a snapshot here of all the different dimensions. Okay, so these come really well packed. The entire set is packed in bubble wrap, and then each individual container is wrapped in plastic. And as I said, there's 24 pieces, so we'll go through what you all get with this box. Okay, so of the largest containers, you get 2 of these, and these are roughly just over 9 inches in length, and it looks like about 6-ish in width. So again, I'm going to have the posting with the actual dimensions on it, just so you know. So we'll say this is roughly 9 by 6. You get 3 of these square units, which are about 6 by 6. What I like about these is they all kind of stack into each other. So for storage of extra containers, it works really well. You receive 6 of these longer ones, and these are about 9 inches, just over 9 inches. So the same length as the large container. And this is about 3 inches wide. Okay. And then they have a smaller narrow bin that's about 3 inches by 6, and then you get 5 of these small squares, which is about looks like 3 inches by 3 maybe. Okay, so you get, like I said, there's 24 containers. You get some pretty good dimensions. They are about 2 inches in depth. Let me show you what I do know works really well with these, and then we'll try and experiment with some of the other items in the craft space so you can see how well this will work. And we'll also try placing them in the Kallax drawer unit, as well as the inserts for a Kallax unit, the drawers, just to see if or how they configure within those drawers. So this is the larger tray, and I have repotted my embossing folders in these 1 ounce containers. I'll leave a description for these in the description below as well. And you can see how perfectly these fit in this large container. If we look at the long container, the 1/2 ounce fit perfectly in here as well, as do the full ounce. They fit pretty well. Not quite as perfect as the 1/2, but let's just substitute out some larger containers just to see how it does play out. So you can fit 9 in here, so that's pretty good. If we look at the smaller narrow container, you know that you'd be able to fit 8 of the 1/2 ounce or 6 of the full ounce in that size perfectly. The square also works fairly well. Now I have a mix of containers, so if we just swap some of these out, you'll see that we would easily be able to fit 12 containers in the square version. So that looks pretty good. And we can fit 4 this way and 4 that way's a little bit snug, so not perfect for the small 1/2 ounce. This would be a better one for the larger. Okay, so I have some stickle bottles here. I thought we could test that out to see how those would play in here. So it looks like you could fit 2 wide in the small, and not quite 6 across. So this would not be perfect, but it's not bad. It's not bad. So what did I say? You would at least get 10, probably 12 bottles in here. If we were to use the smaller size, you would get 5, I think. Yeah, 5 containers in a small square. If we were to look at the rectangle, let's see how many of these we could fit in here. That actually fits perfect. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and we know that we would be able to fit 2 this way, so you get 18 containers of these stickle bottles in the long. And if you have a lot, let's see what would look in the big. So we know we would get 9 lengthwise because these are the same length as the narrow. And how many would we get across this way? This actually is pretty perfect. It's not too snug. So we'd get 6 across, so 9 times 6, so 54 bottles in the large. Let's try the square. So the square is okay. It's not perfect. It is a little bit snugger than the large rectangle to have a 6 across. So you probably would get some sort of version of 5 and then every other one going across that way. And I'm assuming because it's square, you're gonna see very similar. Yeah. It's actually not a perfect square because it fits better this way than that way. So 6 times 5, 30, probably about 33 you would get in the squares. Okay, so now let's compare the containers with like a standard 2-ounce paint bottle, just to see how that would play out. Looks like we could get 4 across and 4 this way pretty perfectly in the square, so that would be 16. In the small, you wouldn't really get 2 across. It's quite snug, so this would not be ideal for paint. This would be a better option. Let's look at the larger trays. So again, 4 across, and so 4 across, 6 this way, so you'd at least get 24, maybe 25, 26 with the large tray, which means that this narrow one is not going to be perfect at all because you wouldn't really be able to get, well, you could barely get 2, and then you would get 6 this way. That, I think, is all the paint bottles. I can't see that you would want to even try to store them in this small one. You wouldn't even get 3. Let's try the spray bottles from Distress. Now, I think these are probably comparable to those paint bottles, so I would expect that you're going to see something very similar. So 4 and 4 is pretty much perfect. Probably not going to get 2 very well in there, no. And on the lengthwise, you'll get 6. So for the sprays, the square is ideal, but this is not too bad. So you want to get either the big square or the big rectangle. Very similar to the paint bottles. Let's look at Distress paints next. See how those fare. Again, they're, I think, a slightly smaller. Yeah, they're only 1 ounce. Now these are the older paint bottles. The newer ones are a little bit, are they the same? Well, they're the same size, they just are a little bit not quite as tall. So similar with the other paint, you're getting, you could squeeze 5 in across, but it is a little bit snug, so not ideal. The narrow one is better for paints, and you're going to get, 3, 6, 7 by 2, so 14 in the narrow. You're going to run into the same issue with the larger. Of course, it's going to be a little snug this way for 5, but you'll get the 7 in the lengthwise. Some of you may have alcohol inks or watercolor inks in these particular size of containers, so let's have a look at how these will fare. So it looks like we can get 6 perfectly this way, and only 2, 3 this way, but I bet you we could go this way as well. So we did it. You would get 6 times 3 is 18, 19, 20, 21 in this particular configuration. Let's look at the narrow. Yeah, you're not going to get too wide. Well, actually, let's try something different. Let's try it this way. Let's go this way. You can fit 3 that way. It is a little snug, but not too bad. And how many would we get this way? So pretty good. So you would get 18 in this particular container, in the narrow one. So of course you have the same considerations with the bigger one. You're going to get the same width this way. And then you'll get the 6 long. Okay, what else can we find to test? Okay, let's take a look at washi tape. I have a mix of different size of rolls in here. So we're going to take this with a little bit of a grain of salt as far as how many rolls we can get in. Got some narrower ones and some thicker ones. But that's what we get, right? We always end up with a mix. This looks like it'll fit pretty well. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 in that roll. 3, 6, 9. 3, 6, 9. So this is in the square. You're looking like probably 27 to about 35 rolls depending on your thickness. That one fits really well. Let's see what it would look like in this one. And you probably would want to play around with the sizes a little bit to maximize, but that's looking pretty good. This is actually really great for washi, you guys. So you can fit, looks like 5 rows this way and about 5, 6 rolls lengthwise. You'll probably get about 30 rolls again in this narrow container. Let's look at the big one, because we're pulling everything out. We might as well, right? Okay, you guys, so that is this whole tray in here, which totally makes sense because they're basically the same size. That's hilarious. And a little bit of extra room. So these are great for washi. The other thing I'd be curious in is, yeah, you can't really stack it with washi because the washi is a little bit higher than the 2 inches, but that would be pretty awesome if you could. Okay, let's see what we can do with small punches. Now these are the whale tail ones, so they will stack a little bit differently than ones like this, but just curious. 4 across fits really well. There are ridges in here too, so that would be interesting. If you could do something. I don't know if I would do this though, to be honest, because if you pull one out, you're just going to create a mess. I probably wouldn't do it this way. I probably would lay these flat. So if we were laying them flat, we should be able to get 4. And then roughly 4 that way. So not bad, not bad. I don't know that I would bother putting these in the smaller ones unless I was going to lie them like maybe this way. I would need to have some sort of indicator or something on here so I would know what punch was which. This works pretty good. It's not too tight, so you could easily pull those out if you needed to. Okay, so what about the border maker punches from Creative Memories? So they actually do fit perfectly in the rectangle trays, except you do have a little bit of a gap here. Let's see if we turned them sideways. How would that work? I think you end up with, yeah, roughly the same. So you could fit 4 in the small one, which is not ideal. What about the long one? Again, a little bit of gap left over, but not bad, not bad. So of course, you know, if you were going to translate this over into the square one, I don't think this would be the ideal size. Oh, so close, but yet so far. Yeah, that's a little too snug. So I would say this one's not ideal, although you could get away with 8 in here. Let's have a look at the bigger one. I think if I were going to use these containers, I would use the long, narrow one. Or this larger one. Because this should fit well this way, and you then have enough on this side, and that's all I have. So what is this, 2, 4, 6, 7 times 2, you get 14 in this particular tray. And to be honest, this is starting to get pretty heavy. I don't know that I would necessarily want to put these in a drawer anyways, but if you had a shelf system and you just wanted to slide this in and then pull it out when you needed it, this would work pretty well. Okay, so I think that gives you a good idea as to the size of these trays and what they could possibly be used for. I'm going to now move over to the Kallax drawer unit, and I'm going to set up some different configurations so you can see how these can be used. Okay, so here's an example of how you can configure, and because these are multiples, what am I trying to say? Because they all fit together, right? Like a square is 2 of these, and the rectangle is 2 of those. It just works, right? Like this is the same width as this. So you've got a lot of flexibility, and I think these work pretty much perfect in the Kallax drawer units. There is a little tiny bit of margin here, but I like that because I like to pull my trays out and bring them to my desk. Now, I have these double stacked. If I push these back, that is as far back as they can go. So you'll see there's very little movement. I also like that because one of the things I don't like about the Kallax drawer units is that this is as far out as you can pull, and so stuff gets lost in the back. Now, this does not pull out well like this, but I don't mind pulling one tray out to pull this out to have that full maximize the use of the unit, if that makes sense. So really, it can be configured any which way. I don't want too small. I can swap this out for another square pretty easily. Okay, so that's the Kallax drawer. Let's talk about the inserts for the Kallax. I'm not loving these for the Kallax drawer units. You basically can get any of 2 of the lengthwise long ones in one of the, well, you could get 3 long, right? You could do 3 long, or you can do this one and then the small and the medium. And you could swap out a square and then probably get another small in there. The problem with this is that it doesn't maximize all of this space. Could you still do it? Absolutely. You could use this as a divider in and of itself. So it's not the end of the world. It's just not as perfect of a fit as it is for the Kallax units. One other thing I wanted to share before signing off. So many of you know I use a Billy bookcase from IKEA, and I use these fridge bins and they fit perfectly across. So I thought, what about these? If I used the long ones, and the long ones are pretty much perfect. There's about, what, maybe an inch space. And they're not too snug, but there's not too much space. So these would be great to fill in with some of those items I mentioned. Just have them pull in and out of the shelf. And of course you can adjust these shelves to whatever height you need for whatever product you have in here, like I've done here, whereas I've maximized the amount of clearance on here. I think this would work really well. And you've got a nice surface to add a label if you wanted. So yeah, I think these are a pretty good fit. Lots of functions. Let me know below what you would use these trays for. I'm interested in hearing. And until next time, happy crafting and happy organizing.